morning, all. Uh, this is today's topic, sensors. Uh, as an overview of yesterday's topic, we were discussing about the static and dynamic characteristics of sensors. Yesterday, we learned about what are the static characteristics and what are the dynamic characteristics of a sensor. We've seen many examples like for static characteristics, we were came to know that examples like range, span, error, accuracy, precision, sensitivity, and so on. And as an example for dynamic characteristics, the response time, time constant, rise time, setting time, etc. were the examples for dynamic characteristics of the sensor. Okay. Uh, Actually, we were discussing about dynamic characteristics. Again, I'm telling one more time what are the dynamic characteristics. The response time, that is when sudden input is given to a sensor, we know that it is a dynamic characteristic. So, the input will be always sudden or a step input. So, when a sudden input is given to a sensor, the delay time for which it shows an output corresponding to the actual input. Normally, we take 98% of the actual input. That is called the response time. We can measure the response time of any sensors. After that, we came to know what time constant is. Time constant is actually the measure of the inertia of the sensor, and it shows how fast the sensor will react to the changes in its input. And we usually take a certain percentage of the response time, which we were already measured. So it is taken as, that is, the time constant is taken as 63.2% of the response time. Okay. So next is rise time. Rise time is actually the time taken for the sensor output to raise to some specified percentage of the steady state output. It is actually not a constant value. Rise time, we can select a specified percentage according to our application. Usually, we take a range in between 10% to 95%. In between, we select a certain percentage and measure the time taken for the sensor output to rise to that value. And that time is called rise time. Okay. And the last one is settling time, and it is the time taken for the output of the sensor to settle within some percentage of steady state value. Actually, it is somewhat related to the it is almost the same as that of a rise time. Okay, I hope it is clear. So
Yes, sir.
now I'm going. Okay, uh, now I am going to the census topic. So we are going to find what are the what the actual sensors are. That is, in our syllabus, we are mainly concerned about the temperature sensor, flow sensors, and the pressure sensors. These are the actual sensors that we are using in our engineering. Okay. Okay, first example is a temperature sensor. We know that sensors are used to sense some physical parameters. Here, that name indicates that it is a temperature sensor, which means that it is used to sense the temperature. Okay, it is used to sense the temperature. Okay, so there are many examples for for temperature sensors. Uh, They are liquid in glass thermometer. Next is resistant temperature detector, that is RTD. Next is thermistors and the thermocouples. You may notice that I changed the color of the liquid in glass thermometer in red. Why? Because all other thermometers, that is resistant temperature detector, thermistors, and thermocouples, these three temperature sensors, that is temperature detectors, sensors are giving electrical signal as direct output. We already categorized the sensors into different types, that is primary, secondary, like that, electrical, non-electrical. That categorization were done in the last class. So in case of temperature sensor, the liquid in glass thermometer is actually a secondary type, and all other three, that is a resistant temperature detector, that is RTD, thermistors, and thermocouples are examples of primary sensors. Okay, that is why I mentioned, I showed the difference. Okay, so these devices or sensors are used to sense the temperature of a system. I think it is clear. So next is flow in detail, and from next slide onwards we can discuss about the temperature sensors. Okay, so next is flow sensors. Actually, the name indicates that it is used to sense the flow. Flow of what? Usually we sense the flow of fluids. Fluids means it can be a liquid or gases. Okay, fluid means not only liquid, it is a common name for both liquid and gases. Okay, so flow sensors. So flow sensors are sensors which is used to measure the flow of fluid. Okay, so the examples of flow sensors are orifice meter. That is the device you already familiar in fluid mechanics subject. You are in your previous semester, there will be a subject known as fluid mechanics. So in that subject you already came to know what a orifice meter is. And similarly a venturi meter, it was also the part of your fluid mechanics subject. And also pitot tube, it was also included in, I think it is also included in the fluid mechanics subject. So even though I will discuss it in our class itself, but I was mentioning you already are familiar with these devices. Okay, and I think you already done some experiment in your laboratory in orifice meter, venturi meter, pitot tube, etc. So these sensors are used to what? Used to sense the flow of fluid. It can be liquid or gases. So I think it is clear. I'm only mentioning important types of sensors here. There are hundreds of or more than many number of sensors available, but I am only mentioning about important sensors which we need to write in our examination. Okay, commonly asked questions are based on this topic also. So next type of sensors are pressure sensors. Similarly, similar to that of temperature sensor and flow sensor, the pressure sensor is the sensor which is used to sense the pressure. Pressure of, usually we take fluids. Okay. When pressure, if we consider pressure, have you done any experiment regarding the measurement of pressure? I think you already done in fluid mechanics lab, but in case of pressure, there is a difference. We are actually finding a relative measurement with respect to our atmospheric value. So in pressure sensors, we are actually getting a relative value of pressure. So this is only the basics that you need to know, but it is out of the scope of the subject. But as far as our subject is concerned, you have to understand and know some details about these mentioned examples. Okay, so here as a example of pressure sensor, I took manometer sensor as first example, and the second example as vacuum pressure sensor, and third example is Bourdon tube pressure sensor. I think this was also the topic you were familiar in your fluid mechanics subject. Maybe you may seen it in your fluid mechanics lab also. These are very important sensors or devices which you must familiar if you want to become a good mechanical engineer. Okay. So again, I'm just telling these are the important points you must know when coming to a sensor as a part of your mechanical engineering syllabus. So first one is temperature sensor. The examples are liquid in glass thermometer, a resistant temperature detector, that is RTD, and next is thermistors, and next is thermocouples. These are the important examples of temperature sensors. Okay. So the next one is flow sensors. Flow sensors are orifice meter, vingerometer, pitot tube, etc. And last pressure sensors are manometer sensor, vacuum pressure sensor, and Gordon tube pressure sensor. Okay. So getting into detail, first we are taking temperature sensor as first topic. So the example of first temperature sensor is thermocouple. You can see it here. Here it is mentioned thermocouples. So thermocouples is your first example. So the figure of the thermocouple is shown below. It is the basic principle of thermocouple is Seebeck effect, and the effect is it is a phenomena in which a temperature difference between two dissimilar electric conductors or semiconductors produce a voltage difference between them. That is the Seebeck effect. So thermocouple is a type of device or a sensor which work on the base of Seebeck effect. Okay. It is a phenomena in which the temperature difference between two dissimilar electrical conductors or semiconductors produce a voltage difference between them. That is, this is the example for a thermocouple. You can see that this blue line, it is actually a type 1 semiconductor, that is a wire. We can select any conductor substance as wire like aluminum, etc. So this is a wire type, that is A. We can give generally we can give a name like A. So this is but it should be a conductor or a semiconductor. So we taken it as aluminum for example. So aluminum is wire type A, and the wire type B is actually some other conductor. Okay, can be zinc or some other things. So these two pieces or strips of wire are connected at one point, that is called the hot junction or a junction, simply a junction. If it is given a temperature at this point, that is if we are measuring temperature, we have to give that temperature to that heat to this point, that is that junction point. That is, we simply take two conductors and join it at one point, and the heat is supplied at that point, and that junction is called the hot junction. In due to Seebeck effect, we already said that if there is a temperature difference between the junction of two conductors, it will produce a, what we already told, it will produce a voltage difference, and that voltage difference is measured using a voltmeter. Okay, it is measured, and the magnitude of voltage produced depends upon the type of materials we were selected, that is aluminum, zinc, or some other. For aluminum and zinc it will be one value, for copper and aluminum it will be another value. So depending upon the type of material, we will get a different sensitivity for different thermocouples. I think you can understand what I'm talking about. So this is the basic principle of a thermocouple. I hope it is clear. So the applications of thermocouple, they are most suitable for measuring large temperature difference up to 2000 Kelvin or 1800 something degree Celsius. Okay, and it is used in steel industries, and it is used in heating appliances like iron box, etc. And it is also used in electrical equipments like switch gears, etc. You must understand at least 2 or 3 application for this type of thermocouple. That is thermocouple. Yeah, right. So the advantages and disadvantages of thermocouples are: the first advantages. It is simple. You can see that only two metallic conductor is taken and it is connected to a voltage measuring device, and other end is given directly an input, that is heat. So the device is simple. And next advantage is it is rugged and compact, which means that it will not break easily, and it is small in size. I mean, not much small, but it is compact. There is no complicated geometry for this device, so it is somewhat compact. The next advantage is no battery is required for working of this device. Okay, and the next advantage is it can measure over wide temperature range. These are the advantage of. You can see that we can measure up to 2000 Kelvin. It is a very big temperature. So in industrial applications, we can use this device. So it can be used to measure wide temperature differences or temperature range. So the only disadvantage, one of the main disadvantages is the accuracy is comparatively less. It's comparatively less. It doesn't mean it is very less, but it is comparatively less when compared to other temperature sensors. Okay. So the next one is thermistors. You can see you may familiar with this type of device. You can see it in the slide. This is actually the thermistor. This is also a temperature sensor. Okay. So in case of thermistor, it is a type of resistor with a resistance varying according to its temperature. The resistance of this thermistor is varying with respect to temperature. That is how the temperature of the system is measured. Okay. So in thermistors, the resistance is measured by passing small magnitude of electric current through it and measuring the voltage drop across the thermistor. Okay. By conducting voltage, small current through this device, that is uh, thermistors, then using a voltmeter, the voltage is measured, and from that value, we are actually finding the what magnitude of temperature. Okay. Then the thermistors are of two types. One is a negative temperature coefficient thermistor, and the other is positive temperature coefficient thermistor. And negative temperature coefficient thermistor is known as NTC thermistor, and positive temperature coefficient thermistor is known as PTC. The negative temperature coefficient thermistors are used for temperature sensing purpose. In this, you can see that actually the resistance of the thermistor is inversely proportional to temperature. That is, if uh, when a small current is passed through this thermistor and a certain amount of voltage is being detected, and when if it was a negative temperature coefficient thermistor, its resistance will increase when temperature is decreased. Okay, that is what the nature of NTC, that is negative temperature coefficient thermistor. And in case of positive temperature coefficient thermistor, it is used in electric current control, and in that type, the resistance will increases when temperature of the system is increased. That is, it is directly proportional. Okay. So the governing equation is actually delta R, that is change in resistance. You're actually measuring the resistance change. The change in resistance is equal to K times change in temperature. Okay. So that K is actually the temperature coefficient. For easiness of measurement, for easiness of measurement, the K value is approximated as, or the variation of K is approximated as linear. Okay, that is, it will varies in a straight line. For simplicity, we are assuming it as linear. Okay, so I think it is clear to you what a thermistor is. Here, what actually happening is the resistance varies according to the temperature, and resistance is measured by passing small magnitude of electric current through the device, and the voltage is measured. And there are two types. One type is negative temperature coefficient device, and the other type is positive temperature coefficient device. That is when the temperature increases. In case of NTC, the resistance decreases, and in case of PTC, when temperature increases, the resistance also will get increased. So this is how the thermistors are working. Next is advantage and disadvantage of thermistors. The advantage is, since the thermistors are very small, you can see that you may be familiar with these devices in some circuit, or in if you open a old CRT monitor or TV, you can see many devices like this. So you can see that its length will be within 2 or 3 centimeters. So since the thermistors are very small, it can be used in many other devices. That means it can be used in many devices like stabilizer, TVs, computers, etc. Devices as temperature sensing and correction device. So the advantage of this type of sensor is it can be used in many devices, and can be used for temperature sensing and correction purpose. Okay, I think it is clear. And the next advantage is it is accurate. It is very accurate as compared to other temperature measuring devices, and the precision is also very high. I think you are familiar with what accuracy and precision is from our last class. You know, it is a static characteristic. So I'm not explaining it here. So you must be familiar with what accuracy and precision are. Okay, and the main disadvantage of this third point is actually the disadvantage. The disadvantage of this device is it can be used to measure small temperature range only. Since the temperature which can be measured is very small, so in case of industrial applications or some other cases, we cannot use this device because the device will get damaged at a higher temperature. Okay, so the main disadvantage is it cannot be used for a high range of temperatures. Okay, so next is the applications. It can be used as a current limiting devices. That is, it can be used as an electric fuse. I think you are familiar with fuses in your home. So thermistors can be used, not all the time, for small devices like TVs or UPS. There is a need for small fuses. So instead of some other device, you can use this thermistors as a current limiting device, that is a fuse. So next application is can be used as heating element in oven. Next application is automotive application. It is widely used in automotive applications. And the next application is modern digital thermostat. I think you are familiar with the thermostat. If you own an AC in your home, you can see that there is a digital display which shows the room temperature. That device is actually showing the temperature measured through a thermostat. Okay. So in modern digital thermostats, the thermistors are using. Why? Because in thermostat is actually a small device. So thermistor is very small as compared to thermostat. So it can be simply used in that device. And the next important temperature sensor is resistance temperature detector, that is RTD. It is measuring the temperature by correlating the resistance between the temperature. Okay, it is also somewhat similar to that of a thermistor, but it is measuring the temperature by correlating the resistance with the temperature. There is actually a relation between temperature and resistance, similar to that of thermistor. But in case of resistance temperature detector, it is a small difference is there. I will show you. They are also called platinum resistance thermometer. Okay, this is the figure of RTD. You can see two types: wire wound RTD and thin film RTD, and they are also called as platinum resistance thermometer. Why? Because the wire taken is most of the application, the wire taken is platinum wire, so it is also known as platinum resistance thermometer. And also nickel copper tungsten and nickel copper and tungsten are also used for this application. From the figure you can see that in wire wound RTD, it consists of length of fine coiled wire, that is here it is taken as platinum wire, as fine coiled wire wrapped around ceramics or glass. It is the standard design of a RTD. Actually it consists of length of fine coiled wire is wrapped around ceramics or glass core. Here you can see that a cylinder and a thin film. In both the cases, a platinum wire is wound over it. The entire length of the platinum wire is wound over it. Okay. So in both the cases, you can see that the length of fine coiled wire, it can be nickel, copper, tungsten, platinum, but here widely used is platinum. So you can see that length of fine coiled wire wrapped around the ceramics or glass core. It is the here it is selected as ceramics. Okay. So the fine coiled wire is wrapped around the ceramics or glass core. The next step is it is kept inside a sheathed probe. That is because ceramics or glass are very fragile in nature. It will break easily. So it is kept inside a sheathed probe. Okay. The whole setup is wrapped or kept inside a sheathed probe. Next is predictable change. It is a predictable change of temperature with the material is used. Actually, since the platinum wire and core is taken as ceramics, we can actually predict the change of temperature with temperature. That is, if we are measuring some certain temperature, the standard values are available for the device. So easily we can find what the temperature is. And I already told there are two types. One is a film type and wire wound type. Film type is actually total thickness of this film is nearly 1 micrometer. You can imagine how much thin it is. And the wire wound type shows comparatively higher accuracy. Okay. The advantages are high accuracy, suitable for precision application, wide operating range. And the disadvantages are rarely used at industrial application. Why? Because for temperature greater than 660 degrees Celsius, the platinum wire is highly unstable. It will start to melt. So it cannot be used in industrial application. Okay. and it is also not suitable for low temperature application. Why? Because at low temperatures, platinum coils resistance is independent of temperature. So at a very high temperature and at a very lower temperature, the device, that is RTD, cannot be used. Those are the advantage and disadvantage of both these devices. Next is secondary type. I already told that this is liquid in glass thermometer. You were already familiar with this device from your childhood itself. When you consult a doctor, doctor will keep a thermometer in under your tongue or somewhere else. That device is actually liquid in glass type thermometer. Most commonly used thermometer, most commonly used temperature sensor is actually this type of thermometers, that is liquid in glass type thermometers. This is mostly used temperature sensors. Okay, and mercury in glass thermometers are among the liquid in glass thermometers. Mercury in glass thermometer is widely used. Okay, you know that it consists of glass cylinder with a bulb at the bottom. In the figure, it is at the bottom, or generally it is at one end, and a capillary hole down the axis, which is connected to reservoir in the bulb filled with mercury. Usually, the thermometric fluid is taken as mercury. Recently, due to health issues, mercury is highly toxic for humans. So, for application for medical purposes and all, for measuring temperature for human, the mercury is actually replaced with gallium. It is a alloy of gallium, indium, and tin. So, gallium is using instead of mercury in a liquid in glass thermometer. So, recently, due to health issues, gallium is using. Okay. And the last type of temperature sensor is bimetallic sensor. You must just understand what this is. Bimetallic sensor is actually bimetallic sensor strip is, it is not important, but just understand a bimetallic strip is used to convert temperature into a mechanical displacement. That is, when temperature is sensed, it convert it into a mechanical displacement. It consists of this two strips of different metals which expands at a different rate as they are heated or cooled. Okay, usually steel and copper is selected as two different strips. The different expansions force the flat strip to bend one way if heated and in opposite direction if cooled between its normal temperature, means below its normal temperature. That is, the different expansion forces the different expansions, that is two strips are kept together of different materials. So when heat is applied, one expand at one certain length and other at a different length. So when one is heated, total is heated, one the entire setup will bend in one direction if it is heated and the other direction if it is cooled. That is how it is connected to a mechanical dial like this, and it will shows the temperature. And the applications are, it is used in mechanical clocks for correcting the time error due to temperature. That is, in summer season, the temperature will be comparatively high. And second application is it is used in direct indicating dial thermometer. Okay, this is today's topic. So I think this is comparatively simple. That is why I included this bimetallic sensor here. Okay. So I hope it is clear to you. So we can actually identify these are the two type of strips. One is copper and the other is steel. When this entire thing is heated, one will expand and one both will expand at a different rate, so it will bend in one certain direction, and if it is cooled, it will deform in another direction. That is how the dial is actually rotating. Normally it will be kept at 0. Okay, I think the concept is clear to you. So I think it is enough for today.